In one of the small towns, 8-year-old Jennifer Schuette lived with her mother, Ellen, in a small house in the city of Dickinson, in the American state of Texas. Jennifer Schuette, or Jenny, as her mother called her. She often slept with her mother in her room, but that day Ellen asked her to sleep in her separate room. Ellen put Jenny in her bed and went to sleep. She did not know that her life would not be the same when she woke up. At 5 in the morning, Ellen woke up and went to her daughter's room to wake her up, but Jenny was not there. How did this happen? Ellen noticed the room's window wide open, but there was no way her little girl climbed out of the window. I looked for her everywhere but no trace. Ellen called the police in a state of complete panic to report the incident. The police quickly came to investigate the disappearance of Jennifer Schuette. At 6:30 in the morning of the same day, a report came from the father of one of the children, informing them that his son and his friend, while they were walking around in a nearby park, found the body of a girl lying around. They think she is dead. The police quickly headed to the place, followed by Elaine, whose heart was telling her that this girl was her missing daughter. They arrived at the intended park, and Ellen confirmed that she was indeed her daughter, amidst everyone's panic and astonishment. How did Jennifer move from her small room to the park? Everyone thought that Jennifer Schuette was dead because of the large incision in her neck, a deep wound, and it was clear that she had been slaughtered from ear to ear. But God's will was above all that Jennifer was still alive. Jennifer was transported in poor condition by helicopter to a nearby hospital. Her chances of survival were very weak. But as I mentioned previously, God's will was above all else. The killer, despite his clear intention to slaughter her, did not hit any major artery in the neck. The girl's wounds were treated and she was examined to determine whether she had been exposed to any other assaults. Indeed, it was discovered that she had been brutally raped. Ellen could not believe her ears when she heard from the doctors the news that her daughter had survived, but little Jenny had lost the ability to speak due to damage to her vocal cords. But that seems easy compared to her escape from certain death. The journey began to search for what happened to the little survivor. Jennifer began to wake up, but she would scream in terror when she saw any doctor or nurse. Meaning any male in general, especially police officers. She was horribly irritated. She calmed down and felt safe in the presence of nurses only. The policemen were eager to hear her story, so they decided to contact her by sending written questions to the mother. My daughter, in turn, asked her daughter, and the latter answered her with her childish handwriting. Surely the first question was what happened that night. Jennifer says. I was deep in sleep, when I started to feel shaking. Then I opened my eyes and found that I was sitting on the lap of a strange man driving a car. What happened? So Jennifer asked. Then the stranger told her that he was one of the policemen and that her mother was in some kind of problem and that they would come to get her later. This explains her fear of the policeman. Despite her young age, Jennifer felt that there was something abnormal about what was happening. The stranger stopped at a parking lot and told her that her mother would come to get her shortly when the moon changed color, so she should stare at it. Jennifer asked him about his name, and he told her that his name was Dennis. I asked again. Are you really a policeman? He responded affirmatively, telling her that his gun was in the back seat and she could see it. Here Jennifer turned around and she could see a huge gun on the back seat, but a feeling of fear began to take over the little girl, especially when it was late and the stranger told her that her mother would not come and they had to go. The perpetrator took her to the park where she was later found, and proceeded to strangle her, and here Jennifer lost consciousness, so he raped her. The details were concealed due to her brutality in taking into account her young age, then he slaughtered her, thus ending his goal. While she later woke up while he was dragging her on the grassy ground, she cleverly pretended to be dead. You don't know why you did that. The killer threw her into a nest of fire ants, which helped her stay alive. Whenever she was about to lose consciousness, she received an ant sting, which woke her up. She does not know how long she remained in this state, but finally she heard the sound of children playing, so she raised a weak hand asking for help. Terrible events experienced by an 8-year-old girl, and you can imagine her mother's pain as she conveyed the details of these events. The police's questions increased. What does he look like? Car color? What color are the seats? What kind of cigarette? And beer bottles in the car. Little Jennifer was able to give a description of the stranger's features, and her drawing of the person in charge of that was in the police department, and it was circulated and published everywhere, but unfortunately no one recognized him, not even threads of hope. The police's questions continued, and here Jennifer began to become agitated, and for the first time after 2 months, she made a sound similar to a mumble. So the mother took her immediately to the doctors, but they were surprised that her vocal cords had begun to fuse, and that soon Jennifer would be able to speak again. Indeed, she regained her speech, but the criminal was still at large at that time, and the police were unable to find him, despite all the details that Jennifer gave them. Year after year passed until the research stopped and it was considered a cold case. This was in 1990. Nearly 20 years have passed since Jennifer Schuette regained her normal life, but the memory of the incident has not left her mind. Every part of her being wants to reach the person who did that heinous act to her. In 2008, an investigator named Tim Cromie received the case file. He contacted Jennifer and gave her new hope, explaining to her that his goal was to catch the perpetrator. Jennifer cooperated with him with all her might, saying in one of the press interviews she conducted with her, "Every day I reminded myself of the events so that I would not forget their finer details." Karum worked on the case for a year, re-examining the evidence, Jennifer's clothes and samples, and resorting to a DNA service that did not exist at the time of the incident. It has been a difficult year, and finally the long-awaited call came from the Nuclear Analysis Laboratory. There is a match. Detective Cromie set off to take the results. He couldn't believe his eyes when he saw the name, Dennis Earl. He quickly returned to the case papers in Jennifer's childish handwriting. "The stranger told me his name was Dennis." An old driver's license photo of Dennis is very similar to the police sketch described by Jennifer Schuette. He is Dennis Earl. He was accused of attempting to rape a woman, but she was able to escape and report him and he was caught, so he appeared in the database. The investigator contacted Jennifer to tell her that the assailant had been found. But the latter did not believe the news. After more than 20 years of waiting, the stranger was finally caught in 2009. The police went directly to Dennis's house and he was taken to the police station. Dennis certainly did not think for a moment that Jennifer Schuette was still alive. The investigator began asking him questions about his previous crimes, then asked him about the little girl. Here Dennis began to get confused and hesitate in his answers, but the investigator quickly said, "She is outside and she is the one who set you up." Here Dennis collapsed and started crying, not believing that she was actually alive, that he did not mean to do that to her, and that she was a monster or a ghost. The investigator told him that his words were useless and would not change his fate at all. Dennis began to narrate the facts of the day of the incident. He said that while he was walking around, he saw the little girl sleeping with the window not closed tightly, so he decided to take her, just like that. Such simplicity. He tried to stop himself and bring her back, but Satan got the better of him and decided to get rid of her, especially after she saw his face. Denise's trial was approaching, so Jennifer prepared a several-page memo in which she described her feelings as a child and her feelings over the years after the incident. Unfortunately, Dennis was not sentenced, because he committed suicide in his cell a few days after his arrest. In 2018, Jennifer Schuette hosted a television program, and narrated the events of her life from the incident until the moment of Dennis Earl Bradford's arrest.